The head of the World Health Organization has warned that the worst is yet ahead of us in the coronavirus outbreak.
Trust us, the worst is yet ahead of us. Let's prevent this tragedy. It's a virus that many people still don't understand.
This raises Last May 20, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III had claimed that the country was already on the second wave of coronavirus pandemic, an announcement that surprised some lawmakers and the public during a Senate hearing. But presidential spokesman Harry Roque made a clarification on the country's coronavirus situation and asked for public apology and understanding if any conflicting statement for some officials caused undue alarm.
Ay, pasensya na po kayo, no, mga kababayan. Pero nagsalita po ang presidente at pinanindigan po natin ang sinabi ng presidente, kinakailangan gumawa pa rin tayo ng mga hakbang upang maiwasan ang second wave. Nagpapaumanhin po kami kung kayo'y naalarma. Pero ang katunayan po, ang siyensya naman po at saka importante yung pagbasa sa mga waves para alam natin ang gagawin na response. Whether be it a wavelet or a first wave, ang katunayan naman po ang importante, maiwasan natin ang second wave na mas maraming kasong magkakasakit.
The Philippines continue to deal with the first wave of the coronavirus cases and will take measures to prevent a second wave or another sharp surge of infections. So, how do we know we're in the second wave? The head of the World Health Organization has warned that the worst is yet ahead of us in the coronavirus outbreak.
Trust us, the worst is yet ahead of us. Let's prevent this tragedy. It's a virus that many people still don't understand.
This raises new alarm bells on the pandemic just as many countries are beginning to ease restrictive measures. Concerns are growing about the second wave of infections and perhaps a third. The goal is to flatten the curve or to reduce daily rate of new cases so that the number of severe cases can be handled effectively by our healthcare system. This is an epidemic curve chart. An epidemiological curve is a statistical chart used to visualize the onset and progression of a disease outbreak. A wave is a period of increasing disease transmission following a decline of cases in a pandemic. If you see multiple peaks on the curve, then that is a wave. A second wave is when a novel variant of flu virus spreads and recedes, which then comes back a few months later with a larger scale of new cases. According to WHO, the term second wave is not a fixed technical term. The term only refers to renewed outbreaks after an initial reduction in cases. The second or third waves are often portrayed as very likely, inevitable, or probable. Most public health experts said the longer the pandemic goes on, more waves are likely to occur. A key example of a pandemic that occurred in multiple waves was the 1918 influenza pandemic or the Spanish flu that killed more than 50 million. Starting in March 1918, its peak came during a second wave late that same year. Other flu pandemics, including 1957 and 1968, had multiple waves. According to experts, if there will be a second coronavirus wave, the severity of the outbreak would depend on multiple factors, such as how people maintain social distancing, availability of tests, and contact tracing of positive cases. The Department of Health said that the first wave began when the country started to observe local transmissions of the dreaded disease. The peak of the current wave occurred when the Philippines recorded 538 new cases on March 31. While the government is trying to ease the lockdown situation to improve the Philippine economy, and even if it seems that the number of cases are dropping, researchers see the possibility of increase in number of cases for the second time. In some countries, lifting lockdown restrictions caused the second wave of coronavirus. Implementing lockdown procedures and social distancing measures slows down the growth of the number of cases. But according to experts, another possible way to slow down the spread of a pandemic is called herd immunity, which means people who had recovered and had received a vaccine develop an immunity for a period of time. Herd immunity takes hold when the virus can find new hosts and stop spreading. But the World Health Organization said that there's no evidence yet that people who had recovered from COVID-19 and have antibodies are protected from a second infection. WHO advises that to keep the number of infections low is to do a wide scale of testing and contact tracing, isolating those who are infected and tracing where the virus originates.
Now we're seeing some hope as many countries exit these so-called lockdowns, and this is good. It allows economic life to return. But extreme vigilance is required, and not just vigilance. Many countries, as the DG has said, have made very systematic investments in building up their public health capacities during the lockdowns. Others have not. And we need every country now to put in place the necessary public health measures or the public health surveillance in order to be able to at least have a chance of avoiding larger second waves later.
They also added that besides the vaccine, herd immunity may be a possible way to stop the further spreading of the disease. All of these raises questions over when and how to reduce lockdowns while at the same time avoid a second wave of new infections. Until there's an effective vaccine developed, experts appear certain that the pandemic will not go away on its own.